and welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. So in the last lecture, we had seen till the earthquakes in Afghanistan. We saw about the Pamir Knot as well as the Hindu Kush Mountains, about the Chaman Fault as well. You must have heard about the Chaman-Budlak crossing during the crisis of Afghanistan. It's between the Pakistan and Afghanistan. And it was overtook by the Al-Qaeda terrorists that time. So there is a fault line that was responsible majorly for the earthquakes in Afghanistan. Let's move to the next news, which is about center says measures in place to check price rise. So basically, what is price rise? It's inflation. And inflation rises when the purchasing power rises, let's say, as well as the demand exceeds the supply. Alright. So supply can be reduced because of some factors, either due to a decrease in production or an artificial, let's say, lessening of the supply created by stopping the exports or reducing the imports of something. Then there will be a supply lesser than the demand of the product, and it will lead to inflation if the purchasing power is still with people. So let's see about this. So government has extended export restrictions on sugar, wheat, and rice to ensure adequate supply in domestic markets. Apart from this, so if the domestic markets have adequate supply, that means there will be less inflation in the domestic market, while there will not be very much support coming from the economy because the exports are restricted, but still there will be support in the domestic economy because supply will be there as per the demand, and thereby people will be facing no inflation. Although growth of the economy will reduce because of export lessening or reduction in exports. Alright. So apart from this, 50 lakh tons of wheat will be offloaded through e-auction. So let's see what is this e-auction also. There are some things which we can, some parts which we can steal from each news, which you can take from each news in order to make it utilizable for the UPSC view. So Food Secretary Sanjeev Chopra, it's not important, has announced measures to stabilize essential item price during the festival season. So basically controlling the inflation. Alright. So this is a policy measure, a fiscal policy measure, not a monetary policy measure. So government has extended restrictions on export of sugar, wheat and rice. Okay. So this you can state as an example. A 20% export duty on parboiled rice will continue until this to ensure domestic availability. Okay. So there is export duty also. So people will essentially not be exporting items because the duty is too much. This export duty has resulted in 65% decline in parboiled rice exports in terms of quantity and 56% decline in value. So the export of broken rice is prohibited and 20% export duty is imposed on non-basmati white rice. So these all details are not important. What's important is there is a reduction in the exports as well as the policy is to increase the export duty. So wheat availability is increased through the open market sale scheme. So we'll have to see what is this OMSS. Alright, what a scheme is this and how does it work? And the sale of atta at a fixed price. Edible oil prices are expected to remain stable during the festival season. And the restriction on the export of various items sugar has been extended indefinitely. Okay, so let's see what is this open market sale scheme. So OMSS is a program in which the Food Corporation of India, FCI. So this can itself become an option that OMSS is operated by the FCI or RBI, let's say. So what you have to choose is FCI. Periodically releases surplus food grains, primarily wheat and rice, from the central pool to various market stakeholders such as traders, bulk consumer and retail chains. Okay, so it's not operated by any other apart from FCI. Please remember. These grains are sold at predetermined prices through e-auctions, allowing interested buyers to purchase specific quantities. And states also have the option to procure food grains through the OMSS outside of the auction process to meet their specific requirements. The supply is in addition to the allocation they receive from the central pool for distribution to beneficiaries under NFSA 2013. Okay, So this relates with our food security lecture also. So objective is to bolster the availability of food grains. Bolster means to increase, thereby ensuring food security. Again, food security term has come. We have remained already launched 2 lectures on this. You can watch during periods of scarcity and to help stabilize open market prices, particularly in regions with grain deficits, in order to mitigate inflationary pressures. Okay, so the government is doing the work here, not leaving it to private people, because private people will create an artificial shortage of demand falling into rise in prices. So government offers it as a predetermined prices. All right, ensuring food stability. Coming to the exports, so India is world's largest rice exporter, but in July there was ban on overseas shipment of non-basmati white rice and later imposed a 20% tax on parboiled rice cargoes to ensure sufficient supply in the domestic markets. One more thing you must be knowing, India exports mostly basmati rice. All right, and this non-basmati white rice is used mostly by the Indian domestic customer. The government has extended a 20% duty on parboiled rice until XYZ date, not important. But what's important is to ensure ample availability in the domestic market. So this we have already seen, 61-56% decrement. The export of broken rice has also been prohibited and a 20% export duty has been imposed on non-basmati white rice. So this we have already seen. What is FCI, Food Corporation of India? Is one of the largest corporation established by the Indian government and likely one of the largest supply chain management organization in India. So please remember, this conducts the OMSS, Open Market Sale Scheme, not RBI or any other body. When the question comes, you may get confused. So it's a public sector undertaking, PSU, that reports to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, and it was established under the Act of Food Corporation Act of 1964. So what is this? A statutory body. Don't mark it as any constitutional body, okay? Okay, let's move forward. It was founded against the backdrop of severe grain shortage, primarily wheat, and primarily responsible to buy, store, move, transport, and sell food grains. Concurrently, the Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices, CFCP, was established in 1965 to recommend fair prices to the farmers. This is also very, very important. Please note this down. I'll provide this PDF on our Telegram channel, Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where you can have the notes. Moving forwards, what are the negative impacts of the measures taken? So this is also one topic that we must see. To diminished production incentive. So people who were producing, or let's say because of export, again there was a rise in demand. And if there is a reduction in the demand, then subsequently there will be reduction in the production also. Because who would want to produce something that is not getting sold? Market dynamics distorted, so there has to be an equal demand supply chain. If you reduce the demand somewhere or supply somewhere, then market will be distorted. Loss of export revenue, so this is for the general economy, general national economy, but this is in view to provide people with their food. Inefficiency and corruption, so this we cannot comment on, but it's one thing that needs to be there. And trade tensions, so with various different countries who imported our sugar, rice, as well as wheat. So they will naturally find other options and mark India in their bad books. Alright, so this can also be some issues. Alright, let's come to the next news, an opportunity to recast India's food system. So this article is based on the World Food Day. We already released 2 lectures, you can watch there. So World Food Day underscores the challenge of India's food system, caters to world's largest population. What is the central idea here? So this I have included because we can use this for our mains answer writing. All right. I hope you have already made 2 different copies for prelims and mains. So in the mains topic, you can write in here. So India, with its enormous population, it is the first in the world, faces unique challenges in ensuring sustainable and resilient food system. Sustainable, I already told you, SDG 2 and World Hunger by 2030. The system must not only guarantee nutritional security. This is not only talking about the food security, but about the nutritional security. There's a difference between food and nutrition. You please see that. But also provide reasonable economic returns for food producers while safeguarding the environment. So these are 3 priorities. Okay, you can focus on these 3 things at once. That we must save farmers, we must have food security, as well as we must save the environment. Okay, so this can serve as a basic mind map, a central idea. Nutritional changes, so nutritional deficiency still, let's say, jeopardize many health issues. And the National Family Health Service 2021 reports it alarming statistics with 35% of children being stunted. What is stunted? Stunted means low tongue to height ratio. They are basically short. Okay, and 5% of women and 25% of being mean anemic. Anemic means having less blood than average or normal. Simultaneously, imbalanced diets and sedentary lifestyles have led to increasing rates of obesity. Obesity means basically unhealthy fatness, affecting 4% of adult women, 23% of adult men. Furthermore, there are livelihood issues because of this. So this you can use in various mind maps, that this issue, health issues, livelihood issues, and more mind maps will easily give you more marks in the mains. So farm incomes in India are inadequate to sustain marginal and small farmers. Over 68% of marginal farmers supplement their income with non-farm activities, highlighting a lack of skills or opportunities for income diversification. So we saw this question in that lecture about the China. So they have more food available per hectare. So of course there are more people also who are getting benefited because of the cropping. So environmental vulnerabilities, depleting natural resources and changing climate patterns pose a significant threat to India's food production. So we recently saw this at many places. Pakistan, take an example. So they had a flood there, and post that flood last year they haven't been able to recover. It's all downhill for them. Depleting natural resources, we've already seen that nearly half of India's cultivable land is deficit in organic carbon, a critical indicator of the soil health. So this is because of high irrigation and fertilizer use, as well as pesticides, etc. As well, for natural reasons. Apart from that, groundwater, a primary source of irrigation, is rapidly depleting, particularly in states like Punjab, because of the overproduction. All right, let's move forward to the way forward. A three-pronged approach to the transformation. So shifting customer or consumer demand. So encouraging shift toward healthier and sustainable diets. So this is being done by the Millet Mission. Engage the private sector, civil society, and the health community to promote locally grown nutritious foods. So the same thing has been happening completely. Also, an outreach to the tribal societies has also shown this, such as dependence on mahua. All right. Leverage public sector touchpoints like the public distribution system, midday meals, and institutional procurement to improve the quality of food consumed by the majority. So this is related not to the production, but is a change in policy. Okay, better policies will lead to better nutritional security, such as having ragi or bajra instead of wheat in appropriate months. Last thing that we need to see, supporting the farmers, because they are the producers in this economy. So promote the transition of farmers towards remunerative and regenerative agricultural practices, like not shifting cultivation, not jhum agriculture, but let's say alternate cropping productions. Increase the funding for sustainable agriculture initiatives such as National Mission on Natural Farming. So this you can make different notes about National Mission on Natural Farming. Also, shift from input subsidies to direct cash support per hectare to promote efficient input use. All right. So this is very important point, that direct cash support should be there per hectare to increase the efficient input use. Input means input of fertilizer and all. Okay. Last thing is transforming value chains. So encourage middlemen and cooperative sectors to procure directly from farmers, prioritize sustainably harvest produce, and implement for fair trade practices. This is very important. Support young agri-tech enterprises, basically startups, facilitating farm to buyer linkages. There are many startups now. They are delivering right to the buyer from the farmer or the farm. All right, so they should be promoted, and enable trading of produce between farmer producer organizations to ensure a fair share of value for farmers. Furthermore, we'll end up with a conclusion. So transforming India's food system, formidable task. We saw the challenges involved, and we saw the way forward, three-pronged approach. All right. Farmers, climate and environment, value chains, etc. So this you can use in your mains answer writing. One more news we'll see very quickly, which is related to the climate justice and India. So when we come to this news now, this term is very important, climate justice. In view of India, of course, it's very important. So GS3 again. So what should be the ideal for a just energy transition? Now, what do we mean by energy transition? We are shifting from fossil fuel and organic fuels towards cleaner fuels, clean and green. So in view of that, let's see. And we are focusing on just energy transition. So just means justice. So how we can attach these terms with this justice? So any energy transition initiative must embrace two ideals. What are these ideals? First, those who emit greenhouse gas should pay the social and environmental costs. So who are basically responsible for jeopardizing the Earth's health? So we have talked about this many a time. So the country north of the equator, let's say majorly Europe and Americas, they went through the industrial revolution in 1860s and they got crazy with it. All right, they emitted so much of greenhouse gases and now whole of the world is suffering from the consequences, while there are many countries which still have not gone through such a development and still they are having to pay the price. So who should actually pay the price? The countries north of the equator. Second, climate justice requires compensation for those who are harmed. The richer countries or the richer classes with the country should pay for energy transition. So this is basically climate justice in the sense. Now let's see that what are the issues with India's policy of energy transition. This is itself a question. So India's stance has largely been framed through the lens of foreign policy and its approach to common but differentiated responsibilities in international negotiations, that is CBDR. Alright, so this is itself a very important term and you must make notes about this. So given the country's historically lower emissions, focusing on economic growth has taken precedence over climate concerns. That is also why we are in the climate resilience group, not mitigation group. We have accepted that disasters will happen and how we can prepare for compensating them. So such an approach leads to lack of climate justice within India. Within India we are talking about, particularly its effect on inequality across class, caste and region. So social responses which are necessary to address climate change, such as public action and state capacity, are slowed down in more unequal setting. Given its highly unequal economic structure, India is vulnerable to it. Secondly, recognizing and mitigating the barriers that this inequality poses to effective climate action is a critical step towards a more sustainable, just future. So what is trying to say here that societal response. Alright, so climate change, it has to have a response from the society. And these societal responses, such as let's say who is creating the more pollution? A certain strata of people who are, let's say, rich. Some are even using private jets for their families themselves. They are using, let's say, 3 cars per family for each member. The wife has a different car, the husband has a different car, the children have their different cars. All right, let's say there is a economic inequality and the people who are richer or are who wealthy are, so they have much more part to play in the climate change. Okay, they may be using more electricity per person, they may be spending more let's say fuel per person. Okay, so these social responses will not be occurring unless we have some equitable changes, let's say inequality. So what is the state of inequality with respect to climate change? So climate change and energy transition disproportionately affect the poor. Of course, the wealthier can pay more bill, let's say. Okay, so in a sense of transition, the poor will be more affected. Effect on agrarian communities. So climate-induced variations in rainfall, temperature, and extreme climate events directly impact agriculture productivity, compounding farmers' income loss, and effects on fishing communities, for example. So rising temperatures in the ocean ecosystem has already led to decrease in fish stocks, hurting fishing communities. So what we gain here, sort of inequality, that not every person is included in the, let's say, service sector or tertiary economy. Okay, they cannot purchase their way out of things. That okay, there is climate change, so there is let's say more temperature, so let's just decrease the AC temperature by paying more bill. Okay, there are communities which actually get affected from this temperature, where there is a fall in the food production, where there is a fall in the fishing. And there are many such communities which get affected more by just every change in the world. Okay, so there's this inequality and it hurts more the poor. Okay, what is the status of India's energy consumption? So source-wise, as of 2021, coal was a major contributor to the total energy supply in India, followed by crude oil. And sector-wise, the industrial sector was the largest consumer of energy, using more than half of the total final energy consumption, followed by transport, residential, and agriculture sectors. All right. So India's nationally determined continuous NDC aim to ensure that 40% of the total installed power generation capacity is clean energy. And India is pledged to achieve net zero by 2070. Again and again, I keep saying that don't remember 2050 by any means. Keep it 2070. Okay. So what are the various type of inequalities? So socio-economic inequalities, higher skill sets but generate a lower number of jobs. Many fossil fuel firms are the public sector and act as critical avenue for creating job opportunities for Dalit and lower caste in India. And a shift to renewable energy can potentially slow down generational mobility achieved by these disadvantaged group. So you can read all these notes I have shared. I will be sharing in the channel as well. Regional inequalities you can read from here. All right. And what should be then? This is very important. That India's energy strategy must pay attention to regional inequalities as well as social economic inequalities, and transfer of funds to state dependent coal, carving out state specific programs for reskilling development and local rehabilitation should be undertaken. So these are some way forward which you can see here. The strategy must target inequality reduction, etc. And green investment. This is again very important. Policy alignment and cooperation and deliberate focus on protecting livelihoods, offering alternative job opportunities and ensuring that vulnerable communities are not adversely impacted. So this will be our way forward. What's important here is to see you can have many different editorials on this one, and each author will have a different set of ideas regarding the problem. This is not important for us to adhere to author's ideas. Okay, what's important to us is to make our own idea, the personal idea by the personal knowledge, because the author may have various different sources to his knowledge and we have various different sources to our knowledge. What we need to know here is what is exactly climate justice, what is a fair transition, and how is India making that transition, and how it can enhance its transition in view of climate justice. So author here has only talked about the socio-economic inequalities and all. All right, we can have various different perspectives. 5-6 more different perspectives we can have so that our answer is more fulfilling and spherical. Okay, not very linear. So this is what we should focus on. So climate justice is one thing, as well as in view of India, you should see it. Alright, so this is for today's lecture. I'll be telling you about more news in the next lecture. Thank you very much. Have a very good day ahead. See you soon.